Hey, Group 4, the High Five. I thought I would take a few minutes to walk you through um, an issue with your submission. Now, I did give you some written feedback in CourseDen, so check that out. There's also a marked rubric in CourseDen, which you've probably seen in the Dropbox. So this is not me repeating any of that feedback necessarily, but it is me. I am going to try to explain the issue particularly with your context page, but there's also another potential issue on the innovation page. It's the context page that actually needs more work than what has been given. Not a lot more. You've done a lot of the hard part, but so I just kind of wanted to show and tell what I'm trying to tell you rather than just type it up. Sometimes, um, you know, typing up can work, but I just want to make sure maybe that it's fairly clear. Let me quickly pull up the project instructions. I'm going to put these over here for just a second, and let's just review one thing. This is one of the reasons why I'm, a little worried about the innovation you've picked. But it just depends on the school as to whether this innovation might be new. Okay, so looking at Part 1 instructions, you want to choose an instructional technology that can foster learner-centered instruction. Blended learning can do that. It doesn't necessarily do that. And somewhere in your write-up you do say, you kind of declare that it, sorry about my webcam, I see that it's on, but it fell behind my desk. Okay, so I did notice somewhere in your write-up that you did say it was student-centered. It's not necessarily that way, but it certainly can be. And you wanted your innovation to be perceived as new by the members of the selected school that you are writing about. So that's the first thing. When I see blended learning as your innovation, I'm really wondering, what school is this that doesn't use some form of blended learning already? Is this really new to this school? So possibly it is. So let's go look at your innovation page though and talk a little more about that. On this page, you provide 6 definitions of blended learning. One thing that this needs is a citation. Where did you get these definitions from? They definitely sound familiar to me. I have a few guesses as to where they came from, but you'll want to cite that because I don't think you made this up. And so, but the way you've written it right now, it's like you're saying that you made all of these things up, that you have come up with these terms and you've come up with these categories. That's one issue. So you need to figure out where you got this information and cite it. And of course, these should not, all of these words should be your words. There's no quotes around them. So that's you saying that you have come up with these words yourself, which I'm assuming that's what you've done, but that you've just sort of paraphrased these concepts. But still, that we're still getting towards something I want to say about this, and that is blended learning new to your context? You don't really address that. You just kind of almost treat the concept of blended learning on this page, and then you kind of give us some contextual information on this page, but you don't really connect it, and I will get to the context page in a minute and kind of explain what more I need there. But the issue you're going to run into, now I love specific, and that's these definitions get specific, but I am sure that at your school that they're doing some kind of blended learning somewhere, okay? So please, as you move forward, I would recommend that you pick a model. Like here you're saying rotation model is prominent in elementary schools. Well, maybe it's not necessarily a good fit for this high school, right? So maybe this is a model you're not going to use. Maybe this is something you're not going to try. But is there a model in here that is new, that's not being done at this school? That's what you should probably explore. There are very few schools that I know of, but certainly in a place like Coweta, which I know that, I'm kind of supposed to not know that, but I think I do know that. They're going to have some level of blended learning. So pick a group of people, maybe the math teachers or, in one grade, or the social study teachers of one subject, just a small little group of classes that you can kind of loosely sort of hold together. Maybe ninth grade Spanish teachers. Maybe they need to use more blended learning in this context. But pick kind of a specific subset of the school. That's one tip. And then pick a kind of blended learning that's not being used, but that you think may benefit your audience. And I'm not saying that you need to pick that right now, but I just see an issue going forward, because this definition, by including all of these models, you have an enormously broad definition of blended learning. And right now we're in part 2 while I'm grading this, and I'm just wondering, what are your stakeholders telling you? What are you asking them for one? How are you even defining blended learning when you ask them questions about it? You have basically 6 different definitions here. And so it's going to be hard to get useful information. And then it's going to be hard. Every part that you pass through will be a little bit harder and harder. So at some point very soon, by the end of part 2 of this project, you really need to fixate or focus on, 1 or 2 modes of blended learning, I'm thinking. This is just my sort of prognosticating into the future on it. I think that will help you. Again, both because there's got to be some blended learning already happening, for one, and for another thing, there could be a model here that isn't being used as much, or maybe it's not being used as much among a group of teachers that could benefit from it. So anyway, it's a little broad right now. That's one issue. Okay, so then context. You've linked to the school improvement plan. I love that. You've linked to the math school improvement plan. Love that too. You've provided lots of great details here. Something that is missing, I believe. Yeah, let me look really quickly. Yeah. Okay, so 2019. Something that's missing is kind of like when these data apply to. Are these from last school year? Are they from 2019, 2020? If this is your source, then I guess they're from 2018, 2019, but I mean, how can you be sure? Do you know that? So good information. And then this is just a copy paste from, I believe it's mostly a copy paste from the school district's verbiage, right? You don't want to do that. You don't want to ever copy paste without quoting and citing. And honestly, it's just not helpful. It doesn't really tell us anything about the school, right? This is like the glowing visionary language, but y'all are change agents. You've got to deal in the reality. And yes, vision is an important part of an innovation, of moving an innovation along and all that. But right now we're looking at sort of concrete nuts and bolts of who are these people? What is this context? And this stuff doesn't really tell us. Beliefs don't really, they're a little piece of it, but they are not enough. And you can't copy paste without citing. So what is missing here is actually you writing this stuff up. You've listed, this is basically like a table, a data table kind of here. And these are figures or charts and graphs, which I assume were copied out of this thing here. And so that's another just kind of, I mean, I think they're probably fine. I'm assuming you're allowed to, you can probably use those things for this project, and you've cited it, so that's okay. But I also need you to write it up and connect this context a little bit to the blended learning. Like, I have no idea if blended learning is used in this context based on what you've told me. But based on what I know about Coweta, I'm assuming it is already there. So why are you picking that innovation for this context. Do you see where I'm getting at? Like, I don't have all the answers. I just know that there are some gaps here. And I also know that you have not actually written anything in prose form on your context page. You've provided lots of great information. I just need to see a couple paragraphs. Give me one paragraph describing the context. To use this data if you want. Also tell me what school year this data pertains to. Write me another paragraph on who are the students and teachers, So you've provided some data, you can totally draw from that, but again, you need specificity on when the data are from. So that's what's kind of missing there. But also, as we learn about context, my questions about the current state of blended learning in this school district should also be at least somewhat addressed. That's part of what the context is doing, is it's sort of telling us about, a little bit about the technology infrastructure that usually comes through in this piece. So I think I've explained. I think I've been redundant enough as well. So let me know if you'll have any questions, and please just try to get this done as soon as you can so that you don't have it hanging over you. But, I don't mind if it takes a week or so to get it done. Okay? Thank you.